All right, smile on your face, song in your heart, tap in your toe. It's the Manument Podcast, everybody. I'm your co-host, Doug Turnbull, joined by the star of the show, registered investment advisor Glenn Johnson of Jabez Financial. Get in touch with Glenn and the team at jabezfinancial.com or on Facebook, Instagram. They got a YouTube page up with some content. Call the office, too, 860-390-0093. Glenn, dare I ask how you're doing today?
I'm excited. We've got a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, amen to that. And I love what you said in the last show. You said, great, and I'm getting better. I think that's such a good way. You got to put both feet on the floor and just look forward. I love your mentality and attitude there. And that's a great way to just look back really fast on the last episode, which is planning a vision for your financial future. In fact, we have 3 tips basically on how to do it. So check that out. The podcast on Apple, Spotify, the podcast page, jabezfinancial.com. And be sure to share that around, too, because other people in your life more than likely need to hear that. And Glenn, also, your great energy is in this book, The Motivation Manifesto. You co-authored it with Les Brown and have a chapter all to yourself in there. And people can get that book on the book tab at Jabez Financial, too. And I'm sure you've gotten some good feedback on that.
I've gotten a lot of good feedback from that. You know, because I remember when I started out reading after I got out of college, because some mentors of mine were teaching me that, say, you know what, if you want to succeed, you got to start reading. And when you can read stories of other successful people and how they've overcome the adversities and the things that they've went through, you can extract the wisdom out of other people's lives without having to go through the experience yourself. And that's why you can become wise and old in hours and young in years. You know, based upon how much wisdom you can extract out of the lives of others. And that's what's made this career as a financial advisor one of the reasons it's been so rewarding, because I've been able to see what's on the other side of a lifelong career. And I got to hear people's stories about the different things that they've gone through. Like I said, it's just exhilarating to continue to learn from people on how they've overcome such a variety of things. And in the book, it's co-authored with, there's a handful of other co-authors telling their stories. So that's why there's so much wisdom that can be extracted from that.
No, 100% there. So again, that's the Motivation Manifesto. If you need a good wind in your sails or kick in the seat of the pants, one of the two, maybe both, maybe one before the other, you can click the book page, jabezfinancial.com, and get that going. Now, today we're going to talk about adjusting one's financial sails, S-A-I-L-S, all right, like directional things guided by the wind. And I wanted to play, because you talked in the last episode about someone that's just kind of wants to do set it and forget it with their finances, or just doing the same thing as everybody else. Here's comedian Zoltan Cazas, who's, I get the sense, in his 30s, and he's talking about, or maybe because he's a comedian, just making it up completely, but it's still funny, but a conversation, the first conversation he had with an advisor. And I just want to say, folks, I hope your conversations with Glenn go better than the one went with Zoltan and his. Listen.
He goes, well, when are you going to retire? And I'm like, I don't know. What are people saying? And he goes, well, a lot of people now are saying 68. And I'm like, all right, put me down for 68. And then he goes, all right, now how long do you need this retirement money to last you? And I'm like, are you asking me when I'm going to die? I don't know. And he goes, well, a lot of people are saying that they need this money for 15 years after 68. And I'm like, well, what happens if I live 16 years? And that's right, I think he got annoyed because he cut me off. He goes, look, do you want it or not? So I'm retiring at 68, and I need to be dead 15 years after that. If I live beyond that, you guys are going to be seeing some GoFundMes going up.
Yeah, especially if you're a stand-up comedian, all right? No, but hey, that's I hope people's conversations with you, Glenn, do go better than that. I'm sure they do, but it's about, I just think about today's show. You have this vision, but what adjustments do you make along the way to either, if your vision changes, or to make sure you stay on track? And you can't just set it and forget it like Zoltan was looking to do.
That's right. You know, that's a great clip, because it reminds me of Jeff Foxworthy's clip. He said, you know, sophisticated people have portfolios and they have asset managers. He says, we rednecks, we just play the lottery.
I have a feeling that Jeff Foxworthy actually probably does have a portfolio. He's done pretty well.
He has.
But yes, but that is a funny way to put it. But yes, unpack this for us. The idea of adjusting one's financial sails, you know, making adjustments in the course, so to speak, if things change.
Right. Well, first, like you said, when the financial advisor was asking, okay, so when do you want to retire? And he's like, okay, well, when? 68. All right, whatever that is. Well, The question still stands to be, and it still needs to be asked. And that is, when do you want to become financially independent? It's not so much
Ooh.
retirement, because a lot of times it's not that we're supposed to retire, because in some people's minds that equates to sitting on the porch and watching the dog die. And that's not all that exciting.
Oh,
But
gosh.
really what I want to help people move towards, not so much retirement, but financial independence. And when you become financially independent, you no longer have to do the things that you don't want to do, and you can spend the time with the people you want to be with. That sounds more appealing than no longer just, I'm going to retire and no longer be productive. The word retirement's not even in the Bible. We're supposed to be productive for our entire lives.
Yeah.
It's just at some point, the objective is financially to become financially independent. And age has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Right. Financial independence has everything to do with accumulating enough assets that spill off enough income that enable you to live the lifestyle that you desire to live. There.
True.
So you've got to define, how do you want to live? Then we look at how much is it going to cost? And then what kind of assets do you want to accumulate in order to spill off enough income to live the way you want to live?
And then what happens? So then someone's done that. And really, I think about our episode we did the last time where, okay, you thought about, where do I want to be? What does success look like? How do I get educated to implement it? Then you start implementing it. But then things change, right? Whether it's inflation or whether it's an unexpected life event. So how do you guide people through that, and what adjustments can they make, or what questions should they ask to know whether they need to make an adjustment or not?
You've got to make sure, Doug, that whatever assets you're accumulating have enough flexibility to make adjustments for whatever challenges come up. A lot of times people say, well, give me a cookie cutter portfolio. Well, those cookie cutter portfolios, they don't necessarily have the versatility or the flexibility to change as life circumstances change. Like they'll find an investment and say, wow, this is fantastic. Let's put all our money into it. Well, that may be great if all goes well and you don't need it. But you know what? There's something to be said for maintaining enough liquidity for those unexpected things. We don't want to overcommit to something. At the same time, we don't want to undercommit out of fear of what if something bad happens. We want to be able to seize the opportunities that are in front of us. And that's where we have to be able to make those adjustments, knowing that with whatever investment vehicle we get into, you don't want to go into anything without an exit strategy financially. I mean,
Right.
We do go into marriage without an exit strategy, because that's fun. I heard this guy say once, every marriage, it never ends well. 50% of them end in divorce and 50% end in death.
By the way, folks, Glenn is a marriage counselor outside of financial, but no, that's a really funny way to look at it.
Right. So not everything's going to end well, but you know what? You can enjoy the journey. That's why that's why we live in the present. Are we enjoying things now? And the way we're going to enjoy our life's experience now is to make sure that we're equipped to be able to make whatever adjustments that we may need to make.
Well, you talked about an exit strategy, though, in a more productive way. Okay, your money markets, your CDs, your annuities, your life insurance plans, your other parts of your portfolio, it's okay for them to have an exit or sunsetting strategy. It doesn't have to end in divorce or death with those, all right?
That's correct.
I mean, so how do you, what is an exit strategy like? I've never thought about that. When we talk about these long-term things like annuities, or maybe things that are more short-term, like 1 to 5 years, what do you mean by an exit strategy for those?
Well, typically when a company offers, whether it's 10% free just withdrawals or distributions, or when they offer like, this is how much you can get out, right? Well, if they're offering money that you can take out, you should probably take that opportunity, generally speaking. And then it's a matter of, okay, if I'm going to exercise my free withdrawals out of this account, where is it going to go and what's it going to do? And then is there going to be a time when I want to systematically move back into that? And this is where the mechanics and the fundamentals of the economy make a tremendous difference. Like I remember sitting down with people in, let's say 2003 and 2004, and they were telling me how, well, I was planning on retiring a few years ago, but then the dot-com bubble burst. And then I sat down with some people again in 2009 and 2010, and they said, well, I was going to retire, but then the mortgage crisis happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we
People's
have all
401ks
these
tanked.
we have all these great plans, and we get excited about what's going to happen, especially when we've experienced such a good bull run in the market. And
Yeah.
that's where we just look at from 2009 to today. The Fed was printing money like crazy in 2009, and then after 2020, they're literally mailing people checks. So they have artificially propped up the market, and people are excited about their account balances and their 401ks and their IRAs and their investment accounts. Great. However, if the plan is to walk away from your job or your employment or sell your business or start taking income from these assets, if your plan is to do that in the near future, we don't want you to miss out on the opportunity of doing that by having the market steal it from you.
I see. That makes sense.
Yeah, so we may want to. Now is a good time to adjust those sales, especially during the most financially vulnerable point in our lives, which is that transition from working to not working.
I think that makes total sense. Right now, adjusting those sales at the right time before you get to the storm. Maybe you could steer away from the storm or take the shortest route through the storm so you're not sitting there and getting buffeted by the wind and the waves for too long. So someone's hearing this and they're like, hey, I've never even thought about doing that. Or maybe they need a second opinion about it, and they want to start that conversation with you. And this isn't the only thing you do. You don't just do life advice. I mean, we get down to the nitty gritty with finances. So please explain how they can get in touch with you and what that first conversation's like. And also, Glenn, what Jabez Financial does just in general, kind of as a one-stop shop.
So you can start with going to jabezfinancial.com, and there you'll find our email, phone number. You can also submit your information. Sometimes you may feel comfortable just putting your name and number in on the website, and I'll reach out to you, because a lot of times picking up the phone and calling a stranger may feel uncomfortable. But you can just submit your information on there, and then I'm happy to give you a call, and you'll hear from me personally. And if it's a good time to talk, great. If not, no big deal. I want to open the door in such a way that it's comfortable for you, because the moment that things aren't uncomfortable, progress stops.
Oh, that's a good point.
So I want the experience of getting to for us to get to know one another. I want that to begin well, because all's well that begins well. The ends don't justify the means. Okay. No,
that's a good point.
There's no right way to do the wrong thing. Okay.
Right. I love that. You've got you could have a whole book of Glenn sayings. All right. I love that. But hey, and I want to say too, you mentioned the idea is not just retiring, it's becoming financially independent no matter what you're doing. All right. It's just changing what you're doing with your hands. Maybe when you get to the retirement age, financially independent. What's the name of this podcast? The Manument Podcast. Freedom, an old word for freedom, right? So
yes,
I think that's just something we need to underline here. Freedom. And it's free to listen, and it's free to make that first call too, by the way. 800 or 860 rather 390-0093, or going to jabezfinancial.com. I wanted to say freedom there for you. I feel like that was such a big moment from today.
It's a big deal, because in fact, with Manument United, our nonprofit, that's something with that, we even put together a program called Winning at Life. And we go through the 5 F's: faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances. If you want life getting better and you want to experience life more fully, you want to continue to improve in every aspect of your life. And where it comes to your faith, family, friends, and fitness, they're all relationship oriented. It's a relationship with you, yourself, your family, your friends, your God. With God, they're all relationships. Now, the finances, that's a different story. We don't want to engage into an emotional relationship with our money, but we do have to handle it responsibly. And so the only way we're going to learn is getting new information from people that have more wisdom or knowledge and understanding than we do in that area. And as we develop a good relationship, we learn to trust one another, because we're able to identify each other's behavior patterns and realize, okay, well, you know what? This man or this woman, they've got something, a knowledge or an experience that could benefit me, and I'm going to learn how to trust them. And collectively, everybody's life can get better, but it doesn't happen accidentally. Nothing good happens by accident.
That's correct. One of the taglines here for your firm, Jabez Financial, and for this podcast, creating financial freedom through purpose-driven planning. We want to get to freedom. I just said free a bunch of times a second ago. And then but it's through purpose-driven planning. Asking the questions from our last episode, where do you want to go? What does success look like? And then into this one, making sure that you make the right adjustments along the way. That gets the direction that hopefully you want to go. Glenn, thank you so much for walking us through all of this. And of course, sharing again about the Motivation Manifesto book that you helped co-author. And, I just hope you have a great time ahead. Great rest of the month of February and early March here. And we look forward to learning more from you here soon.
Same here, Doug. Thank you so much.
The pleasure is mine. We thank all of you for listening, by the way, and our producer, Daniel Sallerson, who gets this edited, published, and put out to show. He is Glenn Johnson, Registered Investment Advisor at Jabez Financial. And again, get in touch with them at jabezfinancial.com or 860-390-0093 there in Uncasville, Connecticut. I'm Doug Turnbull, and thank you so much again for listening to the Manumet Podcast.
Investment advisory services offered through Jabez Financial, LLC, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Glenn Johnson Connecticut Insurance, license number 4628409. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Jabez Financial, LLC. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties. Jabez Financial, LLC is not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Jabez Financial, LLC is licensed in your state, please call 860-390-0093.